Hi everyone, I'm Kevin Nelson for Catholic News Break. Here's what's going on this week in the news. We begin with news out of the Vatican. Pope Benedict XVI has released his message for the World Day of Prayer for Vocations, which will be observed on May 15th of this year. The 2011 theme is Proposing Vocations in the Local Church. Carol Glatz, Catholic News Service, has more on the Pope's message.
Today at the Vatican Press Hall, Thursday, February 10th, a new papal message was released. In this year's message for the World Day of Prayer for Vocations, the Pope said the local church needs to do more to be attentive and courageous in fostering vocations. He said every member of the church needs to help children and young people grow in their relationship with Christ through prayer and the sacraments, become more familiar with sacred scriptures, be generous and loving toward others, and understand that entering into God's will doesn't crush or destroy a person, but instead leads to the discovery of the deepest truth about oneself. In other news, bishops from the Philippines are in Rome for their ad limina visit, and top members of Argentina's Bishops' Conference met with the Pope this morning in a private audience.
And looking at other news from the Vatican spokesman Father Federico Lombardi said that despite the hype about the newly released Apple iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch app called Confession, a Roman Catholic app, it does not replace the sacramental encounter between a penitent and a priest. Father Lombardi explained to reporters recently that it is essential to understand that the sacrament of penance requires a personal dialogue between the penitent and the confessor, and absolution by the confessor who is present. This is something, he said, that cannot be replaced by any application. One cannot speak of a confession via iPhone. He did, however, say that the new app may replace how Catholics would sometimes use notes to prepare for confession, and that it could help people examine their consciences. In news now from around the country, Catholics make up 25% of the more than 2.3 million prisoners in the U.S., and the American Association of the Order of Malta is bringing them hope and spiritual guidance. A reading from chapter 25 of the Gospel of St. Matthew, I was in prison and you visited me, was the inspiration for Steve Caron, a newly initiated Knight of Malta, to get involved with prison ministry. Caron says since no one was talking about prison ministry, he turned to his parish priest for guidance, who suggested he talk with prison chaplains. Caron felt that many prisoners might be opposed to guidance because they felt ashamed or embarrassed by their actions. But through the quarterly newsletter, The Serving Brother, the Knights of Malta have reached out to Catholic prisoners. The Order of Malta was founded at the end of the 11th century in Jerusalem and received papal recognition as a religious order in 1113. Throughout the organization's history, one of their main goals have been to serve the faith through charitable work. And finally in the news, Richard Dorflinger, Associate Director of the USCCB's Secretariat of Pro-Life Activities, told a House subcommittee this week that the effort to ban federal funding of abortion is long overdue and widely supported by Americans. Dorflinger, along with two other witnesses, testified on the No Taxpayer Funding for Abortion Act, known as H.R. 3, before the House Judiciary Committee's Subcommittee on the Constitution. Dorflinger called the act a well-crafted and reasonable measure to maintain long-standing and widely supported policies against active government promotion of abortion. Dorflinger cited past surveys showing that the Hyde Amendment has had the support of Americans. However, he said many were wrong to assume that it was fully implemented on all levels of federal government. Gaps in the act have allowed for the funding of abortions through the Indian Health Service, state Medicaid funding to HMOs, and Medicare reimbursements for non-elderly disabled people. Dorflinger urged Congress in his testimony to finally put a stop to this ungainly mechanism and simply apply the principle of the Hyde Amendment across the federal government once and for all. Well, that is all the information we have for you this time. Please stay with Catholic TV for more Catholic news. Until then, I'm Kevin Nelson, and I'll see you next time on Catholic News Break.